service. You can count on Wallace Towing and Recovery to get you safe and back on the road or to a repair shop. Wallace Towing and Recovery will jumpstart your vehicle, change a tire, deliver gas, unlock a door, or haul to the garage or scrapyard. Wallace Towing and Recovery has you covered in Princeton and surrounding areas. Call Wallace Towing and Recovery. Check them out on Facebook. And when you need a tow or roadside help, call Wallace Towing and Recovery at 270-963-9081.
Grab your cup and settle in. It's time for Coffee Talk with Tess. Filled to the brim with stories, guests, and information that affects us all right here at home. Have a question for one of our guests? Email Tess at WPKY@gmail.com. Now, let's go live to the WPKY studios and see who dropped by this morning.
I guess I got to turn my mic on, huh? I just started talking to you. I forgot to push the button. Just wait till you see who's with me this morning. It's somebody I'm telling you what, he's about as busy as anybody I've ever seen in my life. And I thought I was busy. We're going to have some good stuff this morning. And anything from things to do with the family to some things you need to know to keep your family safe. And that's huge. But every single day we kick off things on Coffee Talk with our Pledge of Allegiance. And we don't do that ourselves. No. We get our kids to do that because that's who we love to hear doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, if you've got a kid or a Sunday school class or a neighbor down the street, somebody that you know or you even like a little, just get them to record it. You can do it right there on your cell phone, and then you can text it to us at 270-963-9038. Or you can email that audio to us at 270. Or no, you don't email 270. It's, let's see here. What's my middle name? WPKYonline@gmail.com. That's our email address. So here you go. Get on your feet.
Is that the doorbell?
Hey, come on
We'll
in.
be back in just a few minutes and see who's at the door. Coffee Talk on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Your local McDonald's wants you to know that they're ready to serve you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the drive-thru. They're offering curbside pickup service as well. To avoid the wait in the drive-thru, you can download the McDonald's app and try curbside pickup. They appreciate your patience and understanding during this time. We're all having to adjust. It's temporary, but in the meantime, enjoy breakfast, lunch, or dinner at your local McDonald's.
We're back.
Good morning.
Let's see who else decided to drop by and talk to Tess this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Join the conversation on Coffee Talk on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
You know, there's a couple of things that I've had in my head here lately that I said, you know what, I want to talk to people about so bad and tell everybody about, because I just think that they're amazing programs. Badges. This is one of those, and I've got the perfect guy to tell us all about it. He's on the phone. Sheriff Brent White, how are you?
Hello, Tess. I'm doing great. I'm just happy as everybody that it's Friday. What about you?
Oh, I feel like I've been needing a Friday for like a month now. I don't know.
Yeah, the weeks are clicking down, but warmer weather is ahead, I hope, after we get through this last cold spell.
I'm going to tell you what, Lyon County Sheriff Brent White, we have been trying to get together where one would be busy, the other one would. I think our schedules have been fighting each other, but this is something I just want to tell folks about, because I think this is one of the most amazing programs. And you had mentioned it, I don't know, in a post or something. I was like, wait a minute. And I've been like a dog with a bone ever since, because I want everybody to understand what this program is, what it's about, all of it.
Sure. Well, we appreciate you helping us get the word out about this program, because it's important to our community, as well as I'm sure every surrounding community that is able to have a need for these type of services. But it's called Badges of Hope, and we started it with the McCracken County Sheriff's Office back in the fall of 2019. Sheriff Matt Carter came to me, and he knew that we were doing some work with mentally ill consumers in our county, with providing them access to services through crisis intervention team resources. And he said, hey, I'm kicking around the idea of trying to form an alliance that includes law enforcement and drug rehabilitation facilities to see if we can give people better hope, for them and their family members where they're battling addiction. And it was a great idea. It's a great concept. It's still working today, and we're really proud to be a part of it. And essentially, we had one rehabilitation center that initially stepped up and said, if these folks that are suffering from addiction, if they do not have the financial means to get help, if they qualify with certain criteria, we will provide at no cost outpatient services for them, free of charge, and what I would call kind of a scholarship program. And so that has been a very successful program for us. Not everybody that comes to us that we make the referrals on completes the program, but we've been able to help 13 people since about Valentine's Day of 2020 through this program. And that's 13 people that have been able to successfully break the chains of the addiction and start life over. And we think that's, even if it just helped one, it would be fantastic. But we've made many more referrals, and unfortunately, there's probably a 50% rate there of not being successful in that. So you can do the math. But 13 of those have done well, and we're so proud of that.
Well, and when you think about it, I know when it comes to those situations in the community, and it comes to, it's almost like it's its own pandemic in a way, because it has a way of really growing. And that's one thing that, instead of beating our heads against a wall, this is kind of a way to change the variables.
It is, and what struck that chord in our community of Lyon County more than anything was in January of 2020, after the fall of 2019 when we were discussing this, we had 4 overdose deaths in Little Lyon County between January 13th and January 17th. And those 4 deaths, 2 of those people were related on each side. So 2 of the 4 were related to one another. The other 2 were related to the other. And it was very heartbreaking for the families that were left to pick up the pieces after that. But that kind of was a catalyst to this program in Lyon County getting off the ground. And so we saw some immediate success with people being referred to us that had addiction they were suffering from, and whether we could get them into Kentucky Addiction Centers or whether we could get them into a Celebrate Recovery program or an in-house intensive drug rehabilitation program, we didn't care as long as we could get them paired up with the resources that was needed by those individuals to help them, break that cycle of addiction. And today, we started out with 1 cooperator. Today we have 8 drug rehabilitation providers that cooperate with us with this program, and we're excited about that.
Well, and I'm a firm believer, too, of word of mouth. And that's not just, unfortunately, it's not just for good things. Because if you have, someone that is suffering like that and they see that it helped them, it's the begats. Then they tell their friend, they tell their friend, they tell their friend. And pretty soon, now you're over 10 people.
Absolutely. And we want people to know about this program, and that's why we appreciate you getting it out. Not everyone will qualify for the free scholarship, but there's many times we can actually help these folks get insurance and get to a situation to where they can actually self-pay without a lot of out-of-pocket expense. And we know that, unfortunately, Kentucky still ranks about 5th of all states impacted by drug overdose deaths. And we've been in that trend since about 2019. And that's not, we like to be in March. We like to be at the top of the basketball rankings. Unfortunately, some of our teams fell a little short this year, but some of them really excited us, and we don't like to be at the top of that list in states impacted by drug overdose deaths. So anything we can do to break that cycle of addiction, we think is important to our communities.
Well, and you've seen it going beyond a county level. Now, that's one thing, with Sheriff White that you get is that, you've stretched your legs a little at the state level, and, that you've unfortunately, I guarantee you've seen a lot of it.
Yes, ma'am. And I've had the opportunity to work in 18 counties in my state police career. And unfortunately, every community in Western Kentucky is affected by, drug addiction. And one of the things that is definitely a common thread is drug addiction leads to many other things. If you just think you're hurting yourself, you're wrong. You're usually hurting your family. You're usually impacting children to where they could potentially become abused, neglected, or dependent upon the state or upon other family members. We've got a lot of grandparents out here raising young children that shouldn't have to be because addiction has taken the parent out of the equation, and it is tough on kids. It's tough on school systems that are trying to make sure they provide services to kids. It's tough on our health departments. It's tough on our family resource groups. But, there are services out there that can help, and we know that incarceration alone can't get us out of this, and we try to focus on incarceration when it deals with people that are stealing property and dealing this poison to our communities. But methamphetamine and opioid, those two are what plagues multiple counties across Western Kentucky, including Lyon and Caldwell counties, and we certainly want to try to focus on that as much as we can.
When we talked about, where we stand on, the top 5 or whatever, what makes this area kind of a hot spot for it? Because I've heard that maybe, us being in between a couple of larger cities, maybe it is because we have rural areas because there's more places to hide. What is it about this area that seems, most of us seem to believe that it just seems like it's growing exponentially.
It certainly is, and I think that most of our methamphetamine is coming out of the country of Mexico. And unfortunately, the drug cartels from that country are very deeply ingrained in the United States. And so when you have, geographically, when you have hubs, just like you have UPS hubs and FedEx hubs, you actually have drug cartel hubs. And unfortunately, we sit in between two of those geographically that are high-intensity drug trafficking areas. And because those drugs transit those areas, or because our traffickers in this area can take a day car ride and go down and back, and what we call muling that drug back up here to Kentucky, it becomes an access issue. And when you have easier access to the drugs, you're going to have more problems with the drugs. And we're certainly seeing that now with fentanyl. Fentanyl is 10 times more powerful than heroin. It only takes a minuscule amount of fentanyl to match the weight of the high that somebody might get over heroin. And we're starting to see fentanyl with methamphetamine in Kentucky. Matter of fact, just read yesterday where the Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy said 70% of our overdose deaths in Kentucky so far are related to fentanyl, and we're seeing more fentanyl incorporated or cut into methamphetamine. And the reason is just greed. The reason is because, it's simply so addictive that those dealers want those same people to always come back to them to get their poison. So it's very sad because geographically where we're at, and then also economically, we do have a lot of economically depressed areas in rural Kentucky, and so we have a lot of potential customers that'll fall victim to addiction issues. But it's a much broader epidemic. It certainly stretches over the entire family, the entire community situation, and it really plagues us. It hurts us from an industry perspective when we're trying to get economic development going in an area, and you're trying to get a large factory or even a small factory in. They want to know what the issues are with the workforce, and that's certainly something that can prohibit growth in a community, and we don't want that to happen.
What has the pandemic done to it? Is it?
Well, that's a great question. I have my theories on that, and this is not a political discussion in any shape, form, or fashion, but we have put people into what I call idle hand situations. A lot of employers shut down. We had a lot of people cooped up or quarantined, so to speak, whatever you want to say. And then the federal government decides, hey, we're going to release money, currency to our citizens to help them get through this, which is a great concept. But now we put amounts of money in some people's hands that were addicts, and we've turned those people into dealers. And now we have more exponentially, we believe, drug dealers now in our communities who were primarily just addicts previously, but when they continually got that money in their hands, they continued to use that not to take care of the children, not to take care of debt obligations or to live off of. They chose, when they were in a cycle of addiction, to feed their addiction, and unfortunately it led some of them and many of them to accelerate their game, so to speak, and they became dealers rather than users, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I wondered, now that the pandemic somewhat, I guess I think that's just something we're going to end up living with in one form or another.
Well, let me give you an example, Tess. We've continued court cases pursuant to Supreme Court orders and because of the pandemic over a 2-year period. Just in the Lyon County Circuit Court, we have 45 criminal trials scheduled in May and June of this year because of the backlog. And many of those are drug related. And we've never seen that many trials scheduled at one time. And I really don't know how our new circuit judge, Judge James Redd, and the court system is going to deal with it. Our Commonwealth Attorney, Carrie O.E. Wiggins, and her staff are just overwhelmed with the amount of cases that are now coming up for trial. And so that inherently creates a lot more problems.
So even though the pandemic slowed down in some ways, it looks like, it's just now getting